Chapter 1. The Baying of the Pack. There they go. Just listen to them. Punching his shoulders into something like a shrug, old Jim Horner tossed 2 more logs on the campfire. Sparks shot up and for a moment pierced the solid blackness around the tree trunks. From down in the valley came the baying of the wolf pack, clear-cut in the night air. Suddenly it stopped. Absolute quiet lasted for a minute or two, and then it began again. "Nearer," muttered old Jim. His companion shifted 1 foot uneasily. "Does this happen every night?" he asked the older man. "No. This is just a sort of treat, I guess, to give you a good start in the woods," he answered grimly. "Phew! Listen to that!" The deep individual notes had now joined together in a wild chorus. Excitement lay in this new outburst. The younger man could barely imagine a line of long black bodies pounding furiously down a narrow trail, almost at the heels of some unfortunate deer, gaining perhaps 2 as the tree trunks flew by. "Aren't they having fun?" continued old Jim. "How many do you think there are?" 8 or 10, I guess. That's old Gray's gang. They always come down the Porcupine first, each fall. More will come later, then there won't be so much noise. They're celebrating tonight. Kinda happy, I guess, over the return of the valley and finding easy prey all over the place." Old Jim stopped a moment to relight his pipe. "Hello, they're coming straight our way. Hear that deep bellow? That's old Gray himself. I can recognize that voice." He listened again. "Got cartridges in the rifle? They might, just might, happen to be run near enough." John Rogers dived into the tent. He came out with a Springfield and a handful of long cartridges. Old Jim nodded, then carefully placed more wood on the fire. "We might just as well prepare a warm reception." He smiled, examining his own rifle. "Remember one thing. Don't try to be too quick. Make sure of your aim and keep on shooting as long as you can see one." The 2 men crouched by the fire, quietly waiting. In front of them, only 12 or 15 yards away, lay the narrow pack train trail that wound upwards from the Porcupine over Great Pass. Reflections from the fire danced across it and the tree trunks just beyond. After that, there was only the forest blackness. The wolf voices had died down, and 1 or 2 who tongued only at intervals. Then suddenly, the wild clamor broke out again. It filled the woods. Weirdly, it resounded among the tree trunks. "They're still coming," growled old Jim. "Right square up the trail, sure thing. I can't really think they'll risk passing us, but perhaps." His voice trailed away as the deep bay of the leader resounded above the others. Johnny Rogers' hand clenched over the rifle stock. He had never heard such terror-inspiring noise. As forestry expert, fresh from headquarters in the east, he was new to Alberta's mountainous district, and the wolves sounded so very close. Minutes passed. "Take aim on the trail," whispered old Jim. Johnny strained his ears and eyes. Gently, a new sound reached his consciousness, the barely audible thud of a heavy animal running on solidly packed ground. Old Jim suddenly kneeled and lowered his ears close to the earth. "It's not a deer they're after," he continued in a hoarse whisper. "Deer bounce along more regular. No, it isn't trotting like a moose. Sounds almost like a horse. I wonder what it could be they're playing with." He straightened up quickly and peered into the blackness. There was a click of hoof on hard rock, a scrambling among loose stones. "I see him," breathed John. Without any more warning, long horns caught the firelight, followed by a whitish neck and black body. Another instant and everything resolved itself into a magnificent bull caribou, plunging up the trail, mouth open and eyes rolling with the exertion of the pace. His hoofs thudded harder as he shied from the firelight and rushed on. There was not a sound of the wolves, yet their presence could almost be felt. Perhaps to the rear or to the side they were slipping by, cautiously yet with menace. All at once, a pair of eyes glowed at least 30 yards away from the trees. Behind that came another pair. A terrific roar almost made John fall over backwards. Old Jim had discharged his rifle. "Did you get one of 'em?" gasped the forester. The old man shook his head. "Can't tell till we take a look," he replied. "For a second, though, the firelight caught those eyes just right, but the sights on the barrel were hard to see. Why didn't you shoot?" The younger man looked uncomfortable. "I'm too green at this, I guess. The terrible stillness after that caribou plunged past had the goose flesh just running all over me. Are all of his wolves gone? After that shot? Why, you won't see or hear one for a week. They're the shyest, wisest, luckiest brutes in these mountains. Everybody's against them. The bounty law wasn't needed to make a trapper shoot when he sees one. The grizzly bear may be big, but he minds his own business, and out here he feeds on roots and berries and gophers and such things. He sleeps all winter anyway, and what's more, he doesn't go in packs, but the wolf. Nobody knows what he won't do, and there's still a lot of 'em all over these valleys and basins. You'll learn about wolves before you've been here very long. Usually, you'll just see their tracks in the carcasses they leave around. It isn't often that they let loose a noise like this. Probably they'd killed and fed lightly earlier in the evening and were chasing the caribou more for fun or education of the pups than anything else. Here, take this torch and let's have a look for a dead wolf." A cautious search among the shadows brought no results. In several places the moss underfoot was disturbed by the wolves' leaps, but that was all the sign that Johnny could find. He gladly hurried back to the campfire before his torch could burn too low. Soon he had wood enough heaped on it to make the place as bright as day. Old Jim said nothing when he too returned. For several minutes the men sat there watching the flames and the efforts of a long line of ants to escape the heat and yet not leave the burning log that had been their home. "It's just as well I didn't shoot," Johnny remarked. "If you couldn't hit one in the dark, I certainly couldn't do it." Old Jim continued to watch the flames. Finally, he turned toward his companion with a twinkle in his eye. "If I said I'd winged that wolf, shot it in the right hind leg, and that I knew it was a black one, I guess you wouldn't believe me. Well, when the daylight comes, I'll show you the tracks, and you'll see that the nearest wolf started off on 3 legs. Also, I found this tuft of short hair, the kind that belongs below the hock." And that was how the mother of the Wolf King became lame.